NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village Senior Living in Westfield, with support services designed to help seniors age in place, including a Compass Memory Support Neighborhood. More at armbrookvillage.com.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, we'll relive a little of our childhoods while we chat with Berkshire actor by way of Colrain, Massachusetts, Elizabeth Perkins, who you can talk to in person after watching her movie Big at the Triplex in Great Barrington this weekend.
Yes, that Big. The one with Tom Hanks and FAO Schwartz. Yes, same one. We'll also be hanging out with more big hometown figures as the members of the much-beloved and long-running band Fat join us. They'll be playing at the Academy of Music this Saturday with NRBQ.
And Congressman McGovern is extra busy this week.
I can't imagine what in Chicago could be taking up all of his time.
How's things in Chicago?
Fabulous. Everything's great.
Are you still there?
Yes.
Staying through to the...
I'm leaving tomorrow, Yeah, tomorrow I leave.
Through the bitter end tonight. Although it hasn't seemed very bitter, I will say.
No, it's joyful. It's positive. It's happy. Everybody's having a good time and hopeful for the future.
Time for our weekly check-in with U.S. Congressman from the 2nd Congressional District of Massachusetts, Worcester's own Congressman Jim McGovern, coming to us from Chicago on the cusp of the last evening at the Democratic National Convention. Have you been officially part of the convention, Congressman? Have you given a speech from the floor or anything like that? I've been looking for it. I haven't seen anything, but I don't know what happens when it's not prime time there.
Yeah, no, I haven't given a formal speech. I've spoken at a ton of events around the actual formal convention, but they want to win this election, so
they're keeping you off the floor.
Yeah, keeping me off the floor. But no, seriously, it's been a very positive and uplifting experience. There's a lot of joy here. You heard the word joy used a lot over the last few days, and people really are joyful. They're hopeful. People are inspired by the ticket. You heard Tim Walz last night. You're going to hear from Kamala Harris tonight. People are really inspired by this ticket, and they really appreciate the fact that it's not only about what they're against that we're hearing from all the speakers, but it's also about what we're for. And I'm hoping that it will lead to victory in November.
I know that Mayor Nicole LaChapelle from East Hampton is there at the convention. We will be hearing a little bit from her and some of the reportage one of our NEPM reporters has been doing from Chicago on tomorrow's show. Any other notables from Western Massachusetts that are representing that you've run into in Chicago at the Democratic National Convention?
Well, I did run into Nicole, and we had a good conversation. In our statewide leaders, Ed Markey's here, Elizabeth Warren, Governor Maura Healey, Kim Driscoll are here. Bill Galvin, I've seen. Our Attorney General is here. So the who's who in Massachusetts electoral politics is here. But it's very, very exciting. And Chicago's a wonderful city. It's a great place to have a convention.
Did you go try to get any Chicago beef like in that show, The Bear?
I have had some Chicago beef while I'm here, but I've also had the Chicago deep dish pizza. And again, I love Chicago, but I like the thin crust better, to be honest with you. But don't tell anybody.
No, I'm telling everybody. We have a very strong line about this. Deep dish pizza is pizza casserole. It's fine if you like it, but it is not pizza.
I'm in agreement.
Well, I also saw that a Massachusetts-connected comedian, Mindy Kaling, called Dunkin' Donuts the greatest coffee in America from the floor yesterday, which stands in opposition to our previous conversations about Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
I know. I've been doing Dunkin' Donuts coffee during all of my office hours and my town meetings, and then you complained about it, and then we did one in Greenfield, and I did not use it, but in any event, it was great to see her as well.
The one time that I think you did get a little screen time in the DNC, Congressman McGovern, was during the Massachusetts roll call, which the roll call was insanity. Georgia with Lil Jon, you had actor Wendell Pierce for Louisiana, you had legendary Goonie and Rudy and Samwise Gamgee actor Sean Astin for Indiana. Massachusetts, we had the Dropkick Murphys shipping up to Boston, and that was about it. Were you okay with that? I think we could have done more. We could have Ben Affleck, post J-Lo breakup, representing. Well,
we had Steve Kerrigan, who's the head of the Mass Democratic Party, kind of be our spokesperson. But I thought it was exciting, and I thought it felt good. And again, what you saw unfold during that roll call is the excitement that has just intensified, over the last few weeks. People are really, really excited about this ticket. And I think I've said this before. I think that this election will be determined not just on, one or two or three or four issues, but I think people feel good. They want to move beyond the trauma of the Trump years. They're tired of the name calling. They're tired of, being afraid to turn on the news for fear of what will be said or what will be done. People just want to feel good about the future. And again, I think what Kamala and Tim are doing is, again, reminding us, what's at stake and what we're against, but more importantly, what we're for.
One of the speakers last night, Congressman McGovern, was former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who many have sort of ascribed the, blame or thanks, depending on how you want to look at it, to convincing President Joe Biden to step aside to make room for Vice President Kamala Harris to run for president. She seemed very glowing. Mindy Kaling, again, the comedian, referred to her as the mother of dragons, though, from the stage yesterday. Are there hurt feelings still about this idea, or is it mostly a kumbaya moment at the Democratic National Convention? Or secretly, in inner circles, are there still hurt feelings?
I think maybe in inner circles, there may be some people who feel a little bit hurt about how this all unfolded. But here's the thing about Nancy Pelosi. She's one of the most decent, honorable, kind people that you'll ever meet. She calls you on your birthday. She's, anytime there's an illness in your family, she's the first person on the phone. She's just a genuine, wonderful human being. But when it comes to politics, she wants to win. And so no matter how nice she may feel about you, if you're dragging down the ticket, if you're not going to win, she's pretty cold-blooded about saying, get out of the way. That's what she's known for. That's how we won the House back. That's how we didn't lose all these seats that were predicted in the last election. She's about winning. She's very calculated. And she's a decent human being. But when it comes to politics, she knows if you don't win, you can't do the things that we all say we want to have done. She ends every speech with, for the children. She's obsessed with making sure that our children are taken care of and that they have a future. At the end of the day, the country should be thankful that she is where she is and that she has the guts and the ability to be able to help try to persuade people to move in a direction that will get us to where we want to get to.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, McGoverning with McGovern, while I think the tone, and it comes across on the television, it's been overwhelmingly positive from the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, where you are right now. There are some protests going on behind the scenes that aren't getting as much television coverage. A friend of mine who's a college-age student from Northampton is protesting the war in Gaza there. And of course, our friend Pocky Wieland has another question about that and what Congress can be doing to hold Netanyahu accountable to bring an agreement to a ceasefire. I know it came kind of close a little bit earlier this week. How much of the war in Gaza is impacting the mood, the climate of the Chicago Democratic National Convention? And I think there may be people who are hoping, I think wrongly, for the kind of violent convention that happened there in 1968.
Yes. So we haven't seen, a repeat of 1968, and I think that's a good thing. And I understand the great frustration over what's happening in Gaza right now, the terrible death toll. I think people want Joe Biden, who's still president, to do more. I think he is trying to get to a ceasefire. I mean, we know that. We know that the Secretary of State is in Israel trying to persuade all the parties to agree to a ceasefire. The most important immediate thing that can happen is a ceasefire, stopping, the bombing, stopping the violence, then getting the hostages released, surging humanitarian aid and medical aid to the Palestinians, and then putting in place a framework to resolve this issue once and for all. We need a long-term settlement here. How do we create a lasting peace where Israel's security is ensured and a settlement in which the Palestinians can determine their own future, free from Israeli occupation, free from the bombing, where they can have their own country and be able to, look to a brighter future. But, I've talked to a lot of the uncommitted delegates here, and my response is, look, we have somebody in Kamala Harris who I think is going to try to work with us to get there. And I hope we get to a ceasefire before the election. But what's the alternative? Donald Trump, who, if he were president right now, would give Netanyahu the green light to do whatever the hell he wants to do. If you're looking for perfection, there's no such thing in politics. But I think if we want to move in a direction, like I outlined at the beginning of this question, I mean, this is our alternative. You have two choices, and you're going to pick the one, however imperfect, that will get you closer to what you want. So I respect the protesters. I believe in protest, nonviolent protest, but we have to win this election if we want peace in the Middle East, if we don't want this conflict to turn into something bigger. And we need to win this election for the people here in the United States, too, because so much is at stake.
One of the other slight tarnishes on the Democratic National Convention going on right now in Chicago is the headlines about the revised numbers in the jobs report. Now, I think it is something that happens not infrequently. This was a huge revision in the number of jobs, comparatively speaking. Is this boding poorly for how the economy may be recovering? Is that a cloud that's been hanging over the Democratic National Convention? I know the Trump campaign has been making many headlines about this crying malfeasance, even though this revision happens very frequently. But is this something that's been hanging over the DNC?
Well, first of all, the Trump campaign should not be crying about anything. I mean, no matter how you measure it, Biden has created a hell of a lot more jobs than Donald Trump, period. The bottom line is, I think this may be a reason for the Fed to lower interest rates, and I hope that that's what will be forthcoming in the not-too-distant future.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, who's joining us from Chicago, the site of the Democratic National Convention, which will conclude tonight with Kamala Harris officially accepting the nomination for President of the United States. There have been a lot of quotable and memeable moments from a lot of the speeches over the course of the last few days. So sort of 1-2 punch of Michelle and Barack Obama. With Barack Obama, he should have a nighttime comedy show, the way that he's able to deliver some of those lines. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's fiery speech. There's been a lot of big moments like that. Last night, the hopeful vice president, the now vice presidential nominee for the Democratic Party, Tim Walz, spoke in another fiery, kind of salt-of-the-earth, football coach-esque speech. But the moment that many people are talking about Tim Walz's speech has to do with his son, Gus. Now, you've said on this show for several weeks, in your hopes that Tim Walz was going to be the choice for vice presidential nominee, that you're close with the Walz family. Do you know Gus? He seems, even the Fox News hosts last night took a beat to talk about how moving it was when his son Gus, who's 17 years old and does have a nonverbal learning disorder and ADHD, stood up and pointed with tears in his eyes. That's my dad. I'm going to cry just talking about it.
Yeah.
Do you know Gus? And tell us about what you know of him.
We do, and again, my wife is here with me, and both my kids are here with me, and my daughter's been in touch with Hope and spent some time in the Walz box during the convention, and my wife was with Gwen yesterday, and look, these are real people, and it was emotional to watch that unfold yesterday. These are real people. These are decent people. You know, they're not fake, and one of the problems with politics nowadays is, it's like selling a box of cereal. I mean, everybody has to fit a certain mold, and Tim doesn't, and his family certainly doesn't, and they're just wonderful. We would be lucky to have them in the vice president's office, but it was very emotional. I mean, we were all crying when we saw what unfolded and the genuine love that Gus and Hope and have for their dad. So anyway, it was a powerful moment.
Before I let you go, Congressman, I know that next week is your annual farm tour on Tuesday. We may interlope on that. We'll see how the timing works out at some of the farm locations. And I know that you'll be there with Phil Corman from CISA, who's announced that he's retiring from that role, and you'll be at the sort of farewell engagement for him on Tuesday. Any farewell speech you'd like to talk about Phil Corman while on this show?
Well, speaking of decent people and honorable people, Phil Corman it's been a great privilege to get to know him over the years and to learn from him. What I like about Phil is he's about getting stuff done. One of my hopes, as we're talking about this convention, is that we elect people who want to get stuff done. Talk is cheap and sound bites come and go. But when you have people like Phil who actually understand the importance of local agriculture, who are there finding ways to connect the dots to help our farmers, to help create a sustainable food system, one that we can be proud of. These people are rare, and I'm looking forward to seeing Phil, and I'll try to convince him not to retire. But the bottom line, he's not only a great leader, but he's a great friend.
He said he's still going to do the food bank march in November, too, so you can't get rid of him yet.
Right.
Talking about Phil Corman, who is the executive director of CISA for one more week. We'll hear more about them and have the Phil Corman swan song on this show next week. And we'll be joined by U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern. If you've got a question for the congressman, you can send it our way, thefab413@nepm.org. Enjoy the last day of the convention tonight when Kamala Harris takes the stage, and we will talk to you again next week, Congressman.
All the best. Be safe.
Coming up, local music makers for over 50 years. The band Fat joins us ahead of their show at the Academy of Music.
And this Saturday, you can see the movie Big at the Triplex in Great Barrington with a talkback after the show with the Berkshire actor we'll talk to next, Elizabeth Perkins.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, offering Co-op Advantage checking with cash back on all purchases, plus secure debit card controls, all from the UMass 5 mobile banking app. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop. NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village Senior Living in Westfield, offering assisted living and compass memory support with evidence-based treatment for those with memory loss. More at armbrookvillage.com.
I hadn't spent much time in Great Barrington before starting to do this show. Most of my time it's been spent in Hampshire, Franklin County, but it's been great to explore.
You know, I'm from there.
Well,
I'm from Franklin
We're going to
County.
talk about that, Elizabeth Perkins.
I was in the 413.
You're still in the 413.
You're still in the 413, yeah.
I'm still in the 413.
Yeah.
We have to remind Berkshire County of that every once in a while. It's like, hey,
Well,
you're still the Commonwealth.
I think they
You're
remember they're the
still
413.
413.
I think they just think that Hampshire and Franklin and Hampden County aren't Western Mass, and I take offense to that.
It's so true. And it's like, okay,
This is
there's just a mountain. Other than that, it's still
Right?
Western Mass.
It's like, if you take away these other counties, there's so little left
Yeah.
of Western Mass. Like, you can't just have the end cap.
Well, and it's actually become South County.
Oh, we know.
Oh,
South
yeah,
County,
South
North
versus North
County.
County.
Ooh.
Like, once you get to Pittsfield, the Berkshires are over. You know, and it's like, wait, what?
Tell that to North Adams.
I loved your ideas on the squeezy doll line.
Thanks.
They're so incisive. It's beluga. Macmillan orders it every year. All right? You okay? You want a glass of water? Need something to drink?
Could I have a milkshake or something?
I got a car outside. You want to get out of here?
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. We're joined by actor Elizabeth Perkins. Elizabeth Perkins was raised right here in the 413 in Colrain, Massachusetts. She began working.
Yes, I was.
Yeah. She began working in
Yeah.
theater with Arena Civic Theater, which is a nonprofit community theater group based in Greenfield, Mass., but which, full disclosure, has done many performances at the Shea Theater in Turners Falls, where I am on the board.
She attended Northfield Mount Herman School in Northfield before heading to Chicago to pursue acting at DePaul University. In 1984, she made her theatrical debut on Broadway in Neil Simon's Brighton Beach Memoirs, and afterward worked in a number of ensemble companies, including the New York Shakespeare Festival and the Steppenwolf Theater.
It was a magic carpet ride of a theater. Elizabeth Perkins made her film debut in 1986 in Edward Zwick's About Last Night, but had a career breakthrough co-starring with Tom Hanks in the 1988 movie Big, which is the reason why we are talking with Elizabeth Perkins today.
Given that she still lives in Western Mass, albeit the most western county in Western Mass, the Berkshires, she'll be doing a talkback after a screening of the movie Big in the Berkshires at the Triplex Cinema in Great Barrington this Saturday, August 24th at 3:30. Nice afternoon time for a good movie.
I love it.
Right? Elizabeth Perkins, welcome to the Fabulous 413.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor to be here.
It's an honor to have you.
For sure.
Thank you.
That movie Big, I don't want to make anybody feel too old, but I was the perfect age to be watching a movie about being a little kid wanting to be big when that movie Big came out. But I probably should have been watching the Democratic National Convention last night, but instead sat down with my 17-year-old and rewatched Big, and I have no regrets. It was wonderful. What a fun ride that movie is, and what an homage to childhood, the Penny Marshall movie.
I think it still holds up. I hadn't watched it either in maybe 20 years, and then when they said they're going to do a screening and a Q&A, I was like, oh, I should go watch it. I think it really holds up. I really, really do.
So,
I enjoyed watching it, other than like, oh, I was 30 years younger. It was, I think Well, I mean, it's Tom Hanks, and he's just so good in it.
The grown-up Tom Hanks acting as a 13/14-year-old child in a man's body, his mannerisms were fantastic.
I know, and I think it came so easy to him as well. It was sort of like falling off a log for him. It was like 1, 2, 3 takes, and each one of them was just more stunning than the other. And he had really prepared for it in that he spent weeks in rehearsal with the younger version of himself, the younger actor who played the young Tom Hanks, and asking him to do all of the scenes.
Oh, wow.
So he sort of studied an actual 13-year-old, going through these motions, which was fascinating to see.
One of the things that I thought about when watching the movie is that it must have been so fun to make. So Tom Hanks gets all the fun. Like, he gets to be with Robert Loggia on the famous keyboard scene in FAO Schwartz, and then every kid my age was like, I wish I had a piano on my floor so I could play chopsticks. But you have some really fun scenes, too. And I want to know how much of them were real and how much of them were actually really fun. So there's a scene where you're riding around New York City in a limousine, and Tom Hanks says, "Ejector seat," and he comes out of the sunroof, and then you join him. Was that green screen or was that real?
No, that was real. Every single thing was real.
Yeah,
and we had such a ball that night because we were shooting in Soho. And this was before Soho was busy. This was like, Soho, where are we? And the streets were completely empty, and we had the whole place to ourselves. And we just had a ball shooting that. I mean, mind you, it was 4:00 in the morning, but we were so much younger then that it didn't matter. We're like, hey, we're up all night. It was a complete and utter joy to make that movie. And, to be able to shoot in New York City, I mean, that's just not done anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Shooting an entire movie. They'll do a series down there, but not movies. And it was just, it was like we had the city to ourselves. We had a ball that night. It was the same night that we jumped on the trampoline.
I want to get to that last. But the second one, green screen or real, the roller coaster scene.
Completely real. We shot it at Playland in Rye, New York.
Want to go again?
And it wasn't until I got to Playland that I realized, oh my God, this is the Dragon Coaster. And it was the very first roller coaster I ever went on in my life.
Oh, wow.
And I hadn't put the two together that like, oh, I'm going to Rye, New York. Oh, it's Playland. Oh, it's the Dragon Coaster. My grandmother had taken me there when I was, 8, 7. And I thought, it's the Dragon Coaster. It's the first roller coaster I've ever been on. And it was just, this is meant to be. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. And we did 3 takes of it, and we wanted to do more because we were having so much fun.
And now the trampoline scene. That is incredible. It seems like it almost could watch your faces transform into children the more you jumped on that trampoline and the higher the jumps got.
Get some air between you and the tramp. Pauline.
Aaron.
Oh, come on. Jump, see? There you go. There you go.
Talk about filming
So
that
much
scene.
fun. So much fun until Penny Marshall decided I need an exterior shot.
Which is a great shot.
Which meant that we had to move the trampoline as close as possible to these floor-to-ceiling windows. And in order for her to get the shot she wanted, we had to be on the complete far side of the trampoline.
Oh.
There's actually some moments where we're not even jumping on the trampoline. We're just sort of jumping on the windowsill. And it was like Penny. She's like, no, on a, walkie-talkie. I got to get closer to the window. And it was literally, by then it must have been, 2 in the morning. It was before we headed out to the limousine. And it was a little dicey there for a little while.
I feel like maybe that's a moment where you would have wished for a green screen instead of doing it practically.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, this was just not a green screen era.
Right.
Everything was real.
Yep.
And I think it looks it, it doesn't have that feeling of, we've got, CGI here. And it's old school filmmaking, shot it on film.
And that stuff always holds up way better.
I think so. I mean, that's me personally.
You can judge for yourself this Saturday afternoon at 3:30 at the Triplex Cinema in Great Barrington, where they will screen this Penny Marshall film, Big, with one of the big stars of Big, Elizabeth Perkins, who's from here in Western Mass.
I do have to say that even as a child, perhaps because I am the oldest child, I did identify with your character a lot more than Tom Hanks, because you were just trying to wrangle him to do his actual job, and he was kind of refusing to do so.
Right? Like a child.
Just like, oh, I see her frustration constantly. I understand.
But at the same time, I think she sort of learns to tap into her inner child again. And I just love the message of the movie that, never lose that sense of innocence, never lose that, childlike quality of wonder and fascination and being, really excited about life.
Although I will say that I was cautioning my 17-year-old son, if you get trapped in a body where your body happens to be a toy developer that gets to play with toys all day in a skyscraper in New York City for probably a 6-figure salary in an incredible apartment, maybe stay big.
Right?
Stay there.
Maybe don't go back to being a 14-year-old kid because, the market's tough out there.
Yeah, you're never going to get to that spot again.
I'm curious about what your time at Steppenwolf was like, because that theater is legendary.
Mm-hmm. Well, I ended up in Chicago because my father was living there after I left Northfield Mount Hermon, and ended up studying there at the Goodman School of Drama, which is now part of DePaul University. And it was such a small theater community that was happening out there. It was Steppenwolf, it was Remains Theater, it was Goodman, and we all ended up playing softball in a theater league, and I got to know them. I actually married a member of Steppenwolf. His name is Terry Kinney, and we were together we're still best of friends. We were together for 5 or 6 years, and I ended up doing 2 shows there. An incredible group of people. I was so lucky to have that experience as a young actor in Chicago, and it was right before they kind of went to New York and broke big, right before they did Balm and Gilead, which was their sort of flagship show in New York. Just an incredible group of people, John Malkovich and Laurie Metcalf and Gary Sinise, Glenn Headley, may she rest, and just honored to be a part of it. A great way to start out your acting career. Just completely blessed.
Although we did mention in your intro, Elizabeth Perkins, that part of your acting career began at Arena Civic Theater, which is a still functioning community theater, based in Franklin County, which is the county you grew up in. What do you remember about doing Arena Civic Theater growing up in Franklin County?
Well, they were sort of just starting out. We were doing shows at the Roundhouse at the Franklin County Fairgrounds.
Nice.
And my very first job with Arena Civic Theater, I think I was 12, and I was in the chorus of Guys and Dolls. I just remember going, sit down, you're rocking the boat. Sit down, you're rocking the boat. And then I got asked to participate in the children's theater program. We did a production of Hansel and Gretel, and I was cast as Hansel. And I remember thinking, but I'm Gretel, and being cast as Hansel. And then I realized what a great opportunity for a young actor. And it was the best experience of my childhood. Going there, doing rehearsals. I still have a photograph of me in rehearsal for Hansel and Gretel at the Arena Civic Theater, at the Roundhouse, at the Franklin County Fairgrounds.
That's amazing.
And and then I actually went to Mohawk Trail Regional High School for a little while. I went to Pioneer when we moved to Northfield, and I ended up doing all the plays at Pioneer Valley Regional High. Didn't do any plays at Northfield Mount Hermon. Auditioned, but they didn't cast me. That's their problem.
Wow, yeah. Now, huge fault. Regrets, because now, they probably were hoping for some alumni support.
I know, that's what I was saying. It's like, they're no doubt touting you as alumni.
I'm like, yep, see ya. Anyway, and then ended up going to Chicago to study theater. So it was really my experience at Arena Civic Theater that established me as an actor. And I will always be really grateful for that experience when I was just a young teenager.
We'll hear what keeps the Colrain-raised Berkshire resident, Hollywood actor Elizabeth Perkins, here in the 413 in just a few.
And we've got live music headed your way when Western Mass rock legends Fat swing through the studios before their show at the Academy of Music this weekend.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
I miss my family, Susan, and I want to go home.
Oh my God, you're married.
No.
I knew that this was too good to be true.
I'm
I
not-
knew that
I'm
there
not
had
married.
to be something.
Susan, I'm not married.
You're not?
No. I'm a child.
What?
If you're only familiar with Elizabeth Perkins in Big, you have to remember she's also Wilma Flintstone. She is in the incredible television show Weeds, and it's interesting because there's the woman who's the head of school, the Greenfield Center School. When I was watching Weeds when it was in its time, I was like, you remind me so much of Elizabeth Perkins.
She was probably like, what?
No, she knew exactly what I meant, and she said, you're not the only one. In Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, you're May, but you're this generation's Bambi's mom, as you are Nemo's mom in Finding Nemo, who dies in the first few scenes of the movie.
All Disney moms die.
There's over 400 eggs. Odds are one of them is bound to like you.
Where did everybody go? Coral, get inside the house, Coral. No, Coral, don't. They'll be fine. Just get inside you right now.
It's rare that you get a Disney character who has both parents by the end of the movie.
Yes, very rare.
That was a great little project to be involved with. Little, as I say, because I was eaten by a barracuda.
No, not a lot of people get to put that on their resume, Elizabeth Perkins.
I have a feeling you're going to cue a little bit of heart there.
Oh, yeah. And Steppenwolf, we'll put them in there too. We're speaking with Elizabeth Perkins about the movie Big, which she stars in, of course, with Tom Hanks, at screen at the Triplex Cinema in Great Barrington this Saturday afternoon at 3:30.
So you've done a lot of theater and a lot of film and TV, but do you feel that your acting between the mediums is different, and do you feel more comfortable in one of them than the others?
I do think they're different mediums, but now that we have streaming, it feels like it's all kind of converging into one. I'm not sure I like it, but you got to go with the flow. Change is inevitable. But I'm finding right now I love a great 8-episode series.
Yes.
It's because it's crossing that medium between doing episodic and doing a film. And I did a show a couple years ago called The After Party that was just a great experience. It was Tiffany Haddish and Sam Richardson, Zoe Chow. We had a great cast of people, Paul Walter Hauser. And, we spent 3 months making it. And so like I said, it kind of crossed that divide between doing a movie and doing a TV show. I don't know if I'd want to be on a show that lasted 13 seasons. I think I would get bored.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I like this sort of 8-episode, maybe 10-episode thing, and then you're on to something else. That's really stimulating to me. So I appreciate what streaming is doing on that level.
Taking more of an English model with things. I've
Yeah.
always felt that we, as an entertainment industry, have been really bad at ending stuff.
Right.
Or letting things just come to a natural conclusion. If it's popular, people are like, oh, it's got to keep going.
Yeah.
It's no, just let it be the thing that it is. This is what it is.
Right, and it was
this
always
is enough.
PBS. Yeah, it was always the PBS great English shows that would do Sense and Sensibility, and it was 4 episodes or 6 episodes.
Yep.
And that's a great model. I mean, and for an actor, it allows you to kind of dig in, but then you're not just doing that for 10 years later. I'm not sure I could handle that.
Fair. Western Mass is also really rich in theater culture. Have you had a chance to do productions here?
Not yet. I was actually asked to do 2 plays this summer. And because I was shooting in Italy, I just didn't have the ability to do it, but I can't wait. I was like, oh, they know I'm here and they're asking me to do plays and I'm so excited. So I'm hoping next summer I'll be able to do something. This summer just didn't work out because, oh, darn, I was in Italy.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise I would have loved to. And I was just honored to even have been asked.
Well, a lot of the theater community listens to this show, I think. So I think your phone is going to be lighting up shortly. If we don't hire you ourselves for something.
Right.
I know our CEO has probably got ideas for you already, Elizabeth Perkins.
Hire me. I'm for hire.
And the rest of us can look forward to seeing you on stage next summer.
Yeah, that's
Unless
great.
Of course, you get hired for another movie and have to put it off again.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh, darn.
in France. Yeah.
We're speaking with actor Elizabeth Perkins, who is the star of the movie Big from 1988. Oh, geez.
90.
We're
That's
all
old.
old. And we'll screen at the Triplex in Great Barrington this Saturday afternoon. But as we mentioned, you grew up in Colrain in Franklin County. Tell us what some of your favorite things to do were growing up in that area during your childhood before you were big.
Wow, I love that you're saying from Colrain too, because people always just say Franklin County, but Colrain is its own slice of heaven. And we were right on the Vermont border, so we're really North Colrain. I grew up on a 600-acre farm up there, and at the time I thought, this is the worst childhood ever. I'm stuck out here in the middle of nowhere. The bus is 3 miles away, and what a gift. What a gift to have that experience as a child. We swam in the Green River. Again, the Franklin County Fair was a big deal, particularly when they had the demolition derby.
Yep, coming right up in a couple weeks. Don't miss it, Elizabeth Perkins.
And going to the movie theater, and going to, down to the Dairy Queen, and spending your life working out of Greenfield. It was its own beautiful hamlet. I feel honored to kind of have that as my childhood. I went to Colrain Central School, where we learned to make mint jelly in first grade. Back then they had stores in downtown Colrain. There was a butcher, there was a market. I always hope Colrain will one day have its resurgence. But right now they're trying to put in sidewalks.
One step at a time.
And a new sewer system. Let's go.
Still keeping abreast of Colrain politics. You got a great brewery there now.
I love that town.
The library just won a major award in Colrain, and the brewery Stoneman Brewing, shameless plug, we've been there. It's wonderful beer.
Yeah, and the wife at Stoneman is one of the town's select board
members.
Now.
Yep. I love the town of Colrain. I love the town, and I'm very, very proud to be from there.
Your career is active. Why move to the Berkshires?
Well, I actually have been out here for almost 20 years. I had a home in Shelburne Falls, Massachusetts. I still have family there. My sister's there. My mother's there. And we had a house there for almost 10 years. And then when my mom passed, we sold it and went back to California. And I always knew I was going to end up somewhere back in Western Massachusetts. And I basically ended up here because I have so many friends who are living in the Hudson Valley. One of my best friends lives about 45 minutes away in the Hudson Valley. I can get to New York really easily. And also I have family in Kent, Connecticut. So it's kind of right in the middle of going from Shelburne Falls to Kent, Connecticut. And it sort of just was always the place we stopped at when we went down to Connecticut. And Great Barrington also played a big part in my childhood. So I think it was just more of a convenience factor to end up here than it was to go back to Shelburne or go back to Franklin.
Or to go back to Hollywood, I guess.
Oh, I'm sort of done with Hollywood. I mean, I'm still working. I just finished a job I was in Italy for most of the summer, so that was amazing.
Nice.
But I lived out there for 38 years, and I just don't want to live there anymore. I just don't want to live there anymore.
You hear that, people who aren't big yet? Maybe you could skip that part of the career. Just
California is really expensive and really dirty and really crowded and on fire. It's on fire.
Yeah, see?
Every year it's on fire.
That's why we think the 413 is fabulous.
I remember a couple of years ago, literally the 405 freeway that goes right through the center of Los Angeles was on fire.
Oh, my.
The freeway. You go, okay, I guess we're really burning it to the ground. So I think after 38 years out there, I was just, okay, let's change this up a little bit. Let's change it up.
Elizabeth Perkins, I knew of your connections to Western Mass for many, many, many years. It's delightful to finally get an opportunity to talk to you. It was really great to go back and rewatch Big last night, and I suggest everybody do this weekend and then engage in a Q&A with one of the stars of Big alongside Tom Hanks, Elizabeth Perkins, Colrain native, Western Mass resident still to this day, and Big will be screening at the Triplex Cinema in Great Barrington this Saturday afternoon at 3:30. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure speaking with you today.
Yeah, no, our pleasure.
We got Big, and now we're going to get fat. The band that is Western Mass Legends are reuniting for a show at the Academy of Music this weekend and will be joined by the band Fat next.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village, offering research-based arts, music, fitness, and lifelong learning programs at their assisted living and Alzheimer's care community in Westfield. armbrookvillage.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, homegrown in Hatfield, Massachusetts, and providing energy savings for their customers for over 10 years. Learn more at northeast-solar.com.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. We welcome to the show Fat.
Peter Newland founded the rock band Fat in 1968 right around here in Springfield. A Northeast favorite, Fat has played with Grand Funk Railroad, Little Richard, Delaney and Bonnie, Freddie King, Muddy Waters, the original Allman Brothers, and many more.
Working with producers like Mick Ronson of David Bowie and Bob Dylan fame, Fat recorded their final album for Atlantic after they were personally signed to the label by record industry legend Ahmet Ertegun.
And this Saturday, Fat will play at the Academy of Music in Northampton alongside NRBQ for the Big Bang concert. Why the Big Bang? Because Fat, NRBQ, alongside the band Clean Living, are what helped to explode the universe of rock music onto the scene in Western Massachusetts.
We are joined in the studio by Peter Newland, the original member of Fat on vocals and acoustic guitar, Guy DeVito on bass, another original member of Fat, Tim Smith, who played with Poco on percussion, Mark Papas on electric guitar, and Dennis Fancher, new to the band on electric guitar, the only one in the studio not wearing glasses, because we're all kind of old here. And 2/5 of original Fat. I think that makes us like we're about 2%, low fat at this point. Let's hear something from the band Fat.
2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Wake up, mama, let me in. I just gotta tell you about the shape I'm in. Cold winds blowing, it's freezing rain. My inside's shaking and I'm going insane. If you're wondering where I've been out rambling on the road again. Jotting no money, I smell like sin. I won't promise you I won't do it again. Won't you let me in? Gotta tell you about the shape I'm in. Won't you let me in? Gotta tell you about the shape I'm in. Whoa, I'm back again. Whoa, won't you let me in? Break it down now. Guy DeVito on the bass. Mark Pappas on the guitar. Dennis Fancher. Wake up, let me in. I just gotta tell you about the shape I'm in. Cold winds blowing, freezing rain. My inside's shaking and I'm going insane. If you're wondering where I've been out rambling on the road again. Got no money, smell like sin. Won't promise you I won't do it again. Won't you let me in? Gotta tell you about the shape I'm in. Won't you let me in? Gotta tell you about the shape I'm in. Whoa, I'm back again.
meeting some of the founding fathers of the rock scene in Western Massachusetts, the band Fat, who are playing at the Academy of Music this Saturday. That was the first Fat song, Peter Newland, is basically the first recorded Fat song?
No, it was the first song we wrote because it was, we started in late 67, 68, and we'd all been playing for a while, but I really had an urge to play original music, and I'd been, as a folk artist, I've been playing my own stuff, and so one of the first guitar players asked me to join the band, and when I went to rehearsal, I said, I want to join the band, but I don't want to be in another cover band.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just, and so one of the other guitar player was playing this thing, and I said, like that. The best way to get to know a guitar player is to listen to him when there's nobody else around and he's waiting for everybody, and they're noodling and doodling. And
if you like the noodling and doodling.
Yeah, and so we took a noodle and we took a doodle and we stuck them together and we put some words on it and we had our first song. So.
That's thank you, because I feel so bad about my bandmates when they're talking about something and I'm just so in a corner noodling to myself, and it's how most of the songs get written. But really I feel bad about it sometimes. I'm sorry, I'm not paying attention.
It's a good thing, and this show was kind of being with NRBQ, who's another really very prolific band, is just sort of an homage to that time and that era and the original music part of what is a great music scene here.
Yeah, and NRBQ, of course, is a huge part of that. Although you've never met Terry Adams from NRBQ. Is that true? We've tried to have a meeting. We tried to do this on the air here.
I know we did.
Have Peter Newland meet Terry Adams of NRBQ the first time here.
We should schedule that because who knows what will happen. The interesting thing is that, and I'm going to say this, but the interesting thing is that in the beginning, we didn't really get along. We were part of the same thing, and we knew it, and we collaborated. We did really smart guerrilla capitalism business together. But artistically, we were sort of on different sides of the street. And Jack Mack down at Crystal Lake Ballroom was trying to get the show together, and the word he goes, Terry doesn't want to play with you. And I said, why not? He goes, he thinks you guys just run around and make a whole lot of noise. Well, the way I came away with it was, in the beginning, I thought some of Terry's music was silly, and Terry thought that I was silly, right? And I learned, as my musical knowledge grew, kind of where Terry was coming with that sort of absurd, humorous thing, and I learned to take myself a lot less seriously. But I think he was right.
I think you're both silly. I think it's silly you've never met, but you hopefully will meet this Saturday at the Academy of Music as NRBQ and Fat take the stage in the Big Bang Show.
I got a phone call from him.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
That's close enough.
That kind of counts.
Yeah. We're going to run out of time if we don't do another song here, so let's do another song from Fat.
House on the Corner.
1, 2, 3.
Welcome to the house on the corner. The door is open and you can step inside. Come on in. You don't have to be worried about me. Don't you see there's no reason? I assure you, if you ever feel like leaving, you got to come back later to the house on the corner. It sure don't matter about the place, about the time. Come on in. You don't have to be lonely no more. Don't you see there's no reason? I assure you, if you ever feel like leaving, well, don't you know that it could be in the early morning? It could be late at night. Somebody surely waiting for you, gonna turn on the light. You don't have to be lonely no more. Don't you see there's no reason I show you. If you ever feel like leaving, you got to come back, lady, to the house on the corner. It sure don't matter, no, about the place, about the time. Come on in. Don't you know I need you? It's been so long since I seen you. I tell you when I do, you make my eyes and ears come open.
Dennis Fancher, Mark Pappas, Tim Smith, Guy DeVito, and Peter Newland, Fat, who are playing with NRBQ at the Academy of Music.
For the first time?
First time?
Oh, we had to. We're recreating two monster concerts. We played together, but I think, and there were two great bands, but I think that friction was one of the things that made these things explode.
Well, I hope we get to see some of that friction again on Saturday. I mean, like nothing sells a show like some friction there.
It was admiration and animosity mixed together. Right?
Best combination.
Doing it for 56 years. That's incredible. Thanks so much for coming to the studio and playing for us today. Tomorrow on the Fabulous 413, extra live music Friday because there's a festival coming to help the birds and the environment.
We're talking with folks from the Arcadia Folk Festival happening this weekend. We'll talk with Jonah Keene from Arcadia Wildlife Sanctuary and have a giant pile of musicians that will be playing the festival here to play live for you.
Including Heather Maloney and Pamela Means, and we'll get a recap of the DNC's final night from Barry Goldstein. I'm Monty Belmonte.
I'm Khalees Smith. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.